Imagine for a moment that you are somebody who lives in a Southern California city. You decide that you want to be a traffic safety advocate, so you start putting up flyers and whatnot around town, advocating for a stop sign or speed bump or a new crosswalk or whatever a traffic safety advocate ends up advocating for in a city like this. And while you're doing that, all of a sudden, the Democratic mayor of your town who's running for re-election spots you, and for whatever reason, this Democratic mayor comes under the belief that you are campaigning against her. Now, you calmly explain to her that no, you're not actually campaigning against her, you're campaigning for your particular cause, but the mayor doesn't listen to reason. The mayor is a thug, she thinks she's a gangster, so she decides that she is going to use the power of her office to target you personally. She begins calling your employer to get you fired from your job, and when that doesn't work, she starts using city resources to harass you. When you fight back against her, she then ultimately ends up resorting to sending a gang member after you, and it's caught on video, and yet the mayor is still in office. This is what we're going to talk about today. This amazing story out of Southern California, a city that I've never heard of, and it's just fascinating to see what Democrats think they can get away with. But before we do, I just want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on my website, actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
I criticized her. You know, I felt I had every right to call her out on her behavior.
El Monte resident Gabby Leos makes it very clear how she feels about Mayor Jessica Ancona.
So first and foremost, I want to point out the obvious, which is this is a battle between the Latins. And since I am a half Latin, and anytime you talk about a minority group, you are talking about the entirety of the minority group. I am both the perpetrator and the victim in this scenario. So please leave me a comment when you find out how bad of a person I actually am throughout the course of this story, and when you find out how much I'm victimizing myself, because that's how collective responsibility ends up working for minority groups in the United States of America, if you're a dumb idiot who leaves me those comments every time I talk about a different minority group. Now, we have this woman coming out with the fire, throwing hands, metaphorically, with the mayor of the city in a city hall meeting, and I absolutely love her for it.
You're a disgrace. You're disrespectful.
She accuses Mayor Ancona of using her power and position to try to silence and intimidate her.
I don't understand how a person in her position can spend so much time wanting to retaliate and harass a resident.
So right off the bat, Jessica Ancona, the mayor of El Monte, is showing us the entitled bratty behavior that we see from Democratic politicians whenever they assume that they're being challenged.
The bad blood started in 2022 when Ancona ran for a second term. Leos, a longtime community activist and volunteer with the city, says she was distributing these flyers for a meeting about traffic safety. But she says Mayor Ancona assumed she was campaigning for her opponent and allegedly yelled at her.
Of course, it's based on an ill-informed position because this person was not challenging her. She's just a volunteer for the city who is bringing people in for a traffic meeting. But right off the bat, her first instinct is to yell at somebody for daring to campaign against her, which just goes to show you the authoritarian nature of this woman right off the bat from day one of this dispute between her and a resident that allegedly she's supposed to be working for.
I showed her the flyers and I said, these are stop flyers. And then she turned around and she goes, well, I wouldn't put it past you. And I thought, whoa, like, where's that coming from?
It's coming from her sense of entitlement. You are allowed to advocate, campaign against a person that is in public office. This idea that this in and of itself is a crime is absurd in every possible way, and yet the mayor has no problem coming at this individual, even when she's wrong, doubling down on that, which is something that we see often from these corrupt Democratic Party politicians.
Angered by that encounter, Leos went home and wrote a long email addressed to the mayor and the city council. In that strongly worded email, email, Leos called Ancona a chola and a couple of other words we can't say on the news.
So that's absolutely hilarious. She writes her a long email, she calls her a chola, and a bunch of other derogatory terms, and from this point on, the battle was joined. This email, of course, had her name, a return address, and all that, and the mayor, who is ultra sensitive to any form of criticism, you don't dare question the mayor in El Monte, Jessica Ancona is better than you, decided to launch a hate campaign against this individual, abused her power to target her, allegedly, according to this lawsuit.
According to a lawsuit filed against the city of El Monte and Mayor Ancona, repeated phone calls were made to the plaintiff's employer by Mayor Ancona, alleging that Leos was criticizing her on social media while on company time, and that she was representing the utility company she works for.
So as you can see, this petty mayor was angry that she was getting criticized on Facebook, and by the way, you could see by these posts 1 to 2 likes, so there's not much engagement in the first place, so not a lot of people are seeing this, but this was enough to aggravate Ancona, the ghetto trash mayor from El Monte.
That allegation led to Leos being the focus of a 6-month ethics investigation.
I mean, to go after my employer, my livelihood, she didn't take none of that into consideration, used her power as a mayor to try and pull her weight to terminate me, to get me terminated.
And as a result of the mayor's harassment of her employer, the constant phone calls, this person was under investigation for 6 months related to her actions in terms of ethics of criticizing the mayor on social media, supposedly during company time. This is what the mayor's pressure actually did. It could have threatened her livelihood, and honestly, I'm incredibly surprised that she was not fired because of this, because as we've seen, these pressure campaigns absolutely work, especially with companies, especially when the Democratic Party is behind them.
He says when the mayor couldn't get his client fired, she banned Leos from volunteering for any city-related events.
She, the mayor, verbally told everyone that my client used my client's name, was not to be a volunteer in any way, shape, or form within the city of El Monte ever again.
So after the mayor's petty attempt to get her fired ultimately ended up failing, and thankfully so, she then moved on to banning this person as a volunteer for any city function just because she didn't like the criticism from a constituent, because how dare you criticize a Democratic Party politician? They are god-tier individuals, and you, the plebs, shall never even look them in the eye without consequence.
Among the claims of retaliation in the lawsuit, Leos claims Mayor Ancona sent a public works crew to paint the curb red outside of her house.
They came and they tried to minimize the amount of space that I have in front of my house so that I don't have parking space for my cars.
And then, to make matters worse, the mayor then sent a work crew to paint the curb red, which is usually indicative, at least where I live, of a fire lane, in order to ban her from being able to park on her own street. Now, for me, as somebody who struggles with parking living in New York City, this is a crime that is absolutely unforgivable, but thankfully, this woman was able to fight back against it, and it is on pause for now, although in the future, it could eventually go through. But if you have a politician who is willing to go to all of these lengths to punish somebody who, by the way, initially wasn't even campaigning against her in the first place, you can see how this behavior will escalate, how there are other impacts named in the lawsuit, and of course it escalated even further to the point where she was sticking a gang member on this woman in order to intimidate her.
Out in public, she sends a known gang member from El Monte Flores to intimidate my client.
Mayor Ancona, seen here wearing a green top, appears to motion to the tall man wearing the number 92 jersey. He points his finger and then walks over to Leos, who is recording on her phone.
Hey, why are you recording her?
Leos explains that she's recording because the mayor's friends were recording her.
Do you know that this mayor right here, she called my job and tried to get me fired? Did you know that? He tells me that he's from, a gang in our neighborhood. And at that point, I kind of stopped filming.
So this part is incredibly crazy for a number of reasons. First and foremost, you can see the mayor motion in that direction, but more importantly, you see this guy point to where she's going, you get some confirmation, then he comes over to try to intimidate her. Also, I did notice that he's wearing the same color, that green in the jersey, that the mayor is wearing, so there appears to be some form of a connection. The guy comes over, gets in her face immediately after being sent by the mayor and informs her that he's a member of a local street gang. And by the way, this is not an empty threat. This is apparently backed up by the criminal history, and this guy just got out of prison for gang-related activity.
Well, the person that comes up to the camera, I recognize as a person by the moniker of Tall.
El Monte Police Chief Jake Fisher won't get into the battle between the mayor and the resident, but he does confirm the identity of the man seen with Mayor Ancona.
He's a known, verified local street gang member who recently was released or put on probation, federal probation, after being in federal prison for some time.
And there you have confirmation from the police chief, who, by the way, won't take a stand on whether or not it's appropriate for his mayor to use a gang member to intimidate a citizen that he's sworn to protect, because the police chief is likely appointed by that very same mayor. But it is all proven out in the facts. This is somebody who is in federal prison. This is somebody who's currently on federal probation. This is somebody who is somehow connected to the mayor and willing to go and intimidate somebody based on the mayor's orders, based on the mayor's direction. It's absolutely insane, but it just goes to show you the Democrats are not only pro-criminal in the abstract, a lot of them work hand in hand with criminals.
You've now crossed so many lines with me because I called you a chola. I criticized you for your behavior. And this is the extent you're going to? Like, when is she going to stop?
Look, she's 100% right. And I don't care if you don't like receiving criticism. You are an elected official. You are in public office. And that is a part of the gig. And being called the chola, trust me, I'm on the internet.com. I get called worse each and every day, and I'm able to deal with it. But the way I don't deal with it is by targeting and harassing the people that go after me. The way that I don't deal with it is by using my position of power and abusing it in order to intimidate the people that are calling me mean names. She went above and beyond multiple different ways in order to attack this woman. The painting of the curb red absolutely should be thrown out of office under federal investigation for that. That is clearly and obviously a retaliatory tactic. Her trying to get somebody fired from their job over speech. Again, above and beyond, should be fired from office based on that alone, but it just keeps escalating. It just keeps going further. It just keeps getting crazier. And I'm sure throughout the course of these events, if this ever reaches discovery, we're going to find out so many more things behind the scenes that this woman was doing, all because she was wrong, she was stupid, she looked like an idiot thinking somebody was campaigning against her, which, by the way, you're allowed to do, and she took it way too far. She sicked a local gang member on an elderly constituent because she thought that elderly constituent was campaigning against her. This is above and beyond what is acceptable. And Jessica Arcona, you're a ghetto trash mayor, and I hope this video goes mega viral. I hope people share it so that everybody knows who you are. I hope that you're getting way more interactions than the 1 to 2 likes on your Facebook posts after this, because you're an absolutely trash human being. And if these complaints are proven to be true, you should be thrown out of office and directly to jail, you absolute scum. But hey, those are just my thoughts. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute insanity coming out of El Monte. Till next time.